Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Douglas Rushkoff, author of Present Shock.
Hey. Well, hi. Well, shit, frightened myself there with my volume. Yeah, I just wrote a book called Present Shock, and what it's about is the human and business response to living in a real-time, always-on, perpetual reality. And I got the idea for this book when I was watching The Real Housewives of Orange County with my wife in bed. And, you know, I'm a media theorist, right? So when I watch a show like Real Housewives, I'm watching it to try to figure out why are there so many communications breakdowns between these women? Right? I mean, it's actually fascinating. This is a show about women who go and have meals together and then get into fights. So what was it? What's going on there? So I watched for really 2 seasons until I figured out that the real problem here is that the women, they've put so much Botox and silicone and plastic surgery onto their faces that they can't make facial expressions that are appropriate to the moments that they're in. Right? So one of them will say to the other, oh, my daughter's going in for testing, she might have cancer. And the other one goes, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Right? Because her face is locked into the Botox smile. And then the first one, they show her off camera saying, I don't know, she said she was sorry, but I didn't really believe her. Why didn't she believe her is because the other one couldn't make a facial expression appropriate to the moment she was in. Right? And that's where I realized what for me was the real problem here was that by trying to lock down her 29-year-old reality, right, which is impossible, by trying to lock down her face at 29 years of age, she made herself inaccessible to real time, right? So she tried to lock down one calendar moment, and then she can't be in the present anymore. And as I look around at the business landscape, at the cultural landscape, at the political landscape, I feel like I'm seeing the same thing happen in many, many different forms. Right? We understand that something's happened. Right? This digital thing has happened. But most businesses, most agencies in particular, what they're trying to do is instead sort of lock down some historical moment of brand mythology rather than embrace the actual present, what it is to live in a real-time universe. I think the opportunity here is to unwind brand mythologies, is to let go of them, is to let go of these future-leaning stories. We're no longer living in a world with beginnings, middles, and ends. We no longer have political movements with great goals. We don't have religions where we're going to, the Messianic age, this thing's going to happen. We can't live for tomorrow. People are living in a right now. Both in the panicked right now of their devices, blinking on them all the time. They're getting phantom vibration syndrome because they don't know whether their phones are vibrating on their pocket or if they're... But they're also trying to approach a real now, a peer-to-peer real now. Right? And that's one that branding was actually, if we're going to be honest, that's a reality, a real peer-to-peer reality, real-time reality that brands were invented in part to prevent, right? To corrupt. Right? Way back in the day, right, people would just trade in the bazaar, in the marketplace. They had direct, live, real-time relationships. They talked about their products, they exchanged stuff. Right? This was a big problem for the aristocracy because the middle class was rising as merchants and trading while the aristocracy was getting poor. So they abandoned that, right? They shut that down and they created what we think of now as the corporation, as the industrial age. Right? So instead of me buying oats from you. What's your name? King? Caleb. Instead of buying oats from Caleb, right, where we have a relationship, a human relationship, now I'm going to buy oats that come in a plain brown box. Right? But I don't have a relationship with that plain brown box, so what did they do? They come up with a brand mythology, right? You put a Quaker on the box. So now I can have a relationship with the Quaker that instead of by Caleb, I'm going to have a relationship with this Quaker. And we develop the brand mythology, all of mass media and all of these commercials so that I have a pre-existing relationship with that Quaker on the box before he even gets to my town. Right? But when I live in a real-time reality, In a real-time world with remote controls and digital technology and no beginnings, middles, and ends, how do you even tell me that story in media? How do you do an advertisement in a media space like that? You can't. I mean, what are all advertisements basically come down to? Right? Buy these jeans and you will get laid. Right? Buy these jeans now, you will get laid later. Well, what if I'm getting laid now? What do I need these jeans for? Right? You don't want me to get laid, right? As long as I'm not getting laid, you can give me that commercial. If I am getting laid, it's over, right? But as we move into this real-time, peer-to-peer reality, the only choice is for the company to be the story. Right? It's no longer, you can't say, oh, these are great cookies because they're made by elves in a hollow tree. Right? That's not a real-time story for a peer-to-peer communicating universe. Right? That's a story for one where we have your brand is something that's apart from the company, or where your brand has been created to separate people from the reality of what's actually going on in that company right now. Don't look at the little slaves in that company over in China. Look at this brand story instead. Right? The story becomes the front. Right? The opportunity in a digital era, in a real-time social media universe, is not to put, is not to replace the upfront with a new front, in spite of the great name of this conference. Right? It's to actually turn the company into something that's worth talking about. Right? That's worth the conversation that's going on, that's taking place. Whether you have a social media strategy or not, you have a social media strategy. Right? The social media is actually happening. Right? The question is whether companies are going to let CMOs and other communicators actually influence their operations. Right? Our job is no longer to tell a story that covers up what a company is doing. Our job is to help a company actually do the things that are worth talking about, actually do the stuff that comprises a real-time nonfiction story, right, that's capable of surviving in a peer-to-peer universe that's happening in real time. Right? So what I'm imploring you with this rant, what I'm imploring you to do is to put down the Botox, right, and join real life. Okay, thanks very much.